Yeah, let me go to the first slide. Okay, so the topics which I planned for today is just the general concepts related to um, the immune system, immunology, and I just wanted to give some big picture about the entire immune system, how it function, before going for details about each cells and tissues which are involved in the immune system, as well as before going for details about the innate and the adaptive immune system. So let me start with very basic fundamental definitions which are related to the immune system. Okay, so what is meant by immunity? So immunity is the resistance to disease, specifically caused because of the infectious diseases. Okay, so there are some infectious agent which can cause certain diseases. So it may be either because of bacteria or viruses or fungi, any parasites, whatever it may be. So there can be some diseases which may be associated because of those microorganisms. Those diseases are what are called as infectious diseases, the disorders which are caused because of the infectious agent like bacteria, viruses, fungi, or any parasite. So immunity is kind of resistance which is already present within our body, okay, against those kind of diseases. That is how we can define the immunity. So what is meant by immune system? So immune system is part of our body. So we can define the immune system as it is a kind of collection of various cells, various tissues, and various molecules that mediate resistance to the infection. So whenever pathogen, whenever some infection causing bacteria or virus or fungi or parasite which entered into the body, so our body already has some component like different types of cells, different types of tissues, various molecules. What they does is they can mediate the resistance, they can stop the infection that can be caused because of the entry of that microorganism into the body. But don't think that all the microorganisms they're going to cause disease, right? So there are some good microorganisms we really need it. Okay, so in general, immune system is the collection of various cells, tissues, molecules that mediate the resistance. The interesting part about this immune system is that they do not act independently. So they act, everything, they cooperate with each other, and they act as a, as a team. Okay, it's a team effort. That's why we call it as a system. So moving on, what is meant by immunology? So we just now seen what is immunity. Okay, so we have seen what is meant by immune system. So now what is immunology? So immunology is study of the immune system, including its responses to microbial pathogens and damaged tissues, and its role in diseases. So in this course, what we're going to do is we're going to learn how the immune system is able to, kill the infectious agents which entered into the body. So how it is able to handle the various pathogens which enter into the body, which can cause really very serious diseases. What are the various tissues which support, and what are the various mechanisms by which these things are happening. Okay, so everything that we will be studying in this course collectively called as immunology. So what is the main function of immune system? So as we said, that immune system is a component of different things: cells, tissues, various molecules, and so on. So what's the main function of immune system? The most important physiological function of the immune system is to prevent the infection and to eradicate the established infection. Firstly, it should prevent the infection. Prevention is better. Okay. Second thing, if any pathogen which entered into the body, if it already caused some infection, so we have to eradicate the infection. So our body should able to eradicate that infection. So these are the two major things that should be handled by the immune system. So we can say these are the functions of the immune system. So okay, so this is an interesting thing. Okay, so what are the goals of microorganisms? We are talking about bacteria, viruses, fungi, generally pathogens, right? So what's the main goal of those microorganisms? So the main goal of those microorganisms are like they always want to attack the host. Okay, so in our case, the human or the host, and the microorganism, they always wanted to reach inside our body. So why they really wanted to enter into the body? Because they wanted to grow, they wanted to replicate, they wanted to do the reproduction. All this they can do with the help of the host machinery, human system or any other animal system. All they do this because they wanted to live happily. Nothing wrong in that. Okay, that's the goal of the microorganism. So then what is the goal of the human or the host, any animals? So we as a human, our body always wanted to prevent the microorganisms which are trying to enter into the body. And also our body always want to prevent the microorganism to use as a host machinery. Okay, so two conflict things, right? So they wanted to enter our body, just wanted to prevent the entry of that. There is always going to be a kind of big fight always happening. Every moment this fight is happening between the microorganism and the human system. So if we ask a question, who win in this? So sometimes the microorganisms they win, sometimes the human win, which means that sometimes the microorganism they can breach, even though we have very strong immune system, they can breach it and they can cleverly enter into the body. They can do some nonsense things within the body by using the human machinery. Most of the cases, if you are a very healthy person, the human systems may very easily handle the entered pathogen. It can kill. Okay, in that case the human immune system will win against the pathogen. So okay, so this is very important, right? So because most of my lectures will be on the clinical scenario. Okay, because we are focusing on uh, drug designing aspect or vaccine designing aspect. So in that case, mostly I'll be talking everything in terms of the clinical scenario. So am I audible? I just want to confirm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So in case of hospital scenario, the patients may be presented with some infections. It's very common. Okay, so we cannot see the presence of the bacteria or the virus or fungi using our eyes, right? So maybe some kind of symptoms which may be present. The patient may be presented to the physician or doctor with some kind of infection, like symptoms like fever, some other symptoms, whatever it may be, right? So the many symptoms which are associated with the infection caused by microorganisms. So this is the most surface level understanding that the patient is having some problem, he's having some infection. Because of that, some symptoms there. Okay, subjected to the doctor. Okay, if we carefully analyzes the blood sample or urine sample, we can say that uh, you know there's a kind of successful attack of some microorganism in that patient, and that is why he got some kind of symptoms which are associated to the infections caused by microorganisms. Okay, so in that case, okay, if you are really very healthy person, your body should able to tackle this. So we can say that some problem with your immune system. We cannot say that your immune system is not functioning or it is not working. It is not able to handle. It missed something. Something it missed. Okay, so maybe the bacteria or the virus which entered may be very stronger than you. That is why your system is not able to handle the first scenario. Okay, so the second scenario is like so your immune system may act incorrectly. Then what is meant by immune system acting correctly? So whenever the bacteria or virus which entered in the body, your body should be able to handle it very correctly. It should be able to eradicate, kill it. So sometimes what may happen, apart from that, your immune system may act incorrectly. So the meaning of incorrect function of immune system here is either your immune system may have lower functioning or increased functioning. Both are possible. Both should not happen. Okay, your immune system should act as it should be act. It should not have lower function or it should not have increased function. So what is the lower function? That is a pathogen, okay, that has to be killed by your immune system, but your immune system missed to kill it. So lower functioning of the immune system. So what is meant by increased functioning of the immune system? It's overacting. Your immune system is acting more than what how it should act. So for example, there is no infection causing pathogen. Some foreign particle entered. It is not doing anything harm to the body. It entered. It is not doing anything harm to the body, but your body, which recognize that as a infection causing agent, and started to kill it, started to damage the various cells which are present, started to initiate various signaling cascades which are not really necessary. Okay, that we can say it has increased functioning of the immune system. Is it understandable? So I'm looking for kind of a response. No, otherwise it will be difficult for me to teach. I hope everyone is having the microphone. You can unmute and you can tell whether so far whatever I have explained is understandable.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I won't be repeating this again and again. Okay. So when I ask whether it is understandable or whether I am connected, it is your duty to respond immediately. Okay. Yeah. Moving further. So this is a kind of image, right? So which explain uh, the two major wings of immune system, human immune system. What we call it as host defense mechanism. So basically, we have two types of immunity. One is called as innate immunity. Another one is called as adaptive immunity. So there are various cells, tissues, molecules, signalings, mechanisms which are taking place in both innate as well as the adaptive immunity. We can see here even epithelial barriers, phagocytes, dendritic cells, complement, NK cells, lymphocytes, B lymphocyte, T lymphocyte, antibodies, effectors. This is not the entire picture, right? So just just a few things, few components of the innate and the adaptive immunity. The innate immunity is linked to the adaptive immunity, as well as the adaptive immunity is linked to the innate immunity. And why I kept this image is like it's a very complex process. Okay, so very beautifully developed by the nature. It's a very complex process, very complex, very complex process. So everything mutually function for eradicating the microorganisms. So as I said that there are two types, innate and adaptive immunity. So whenever any pathogen which entered into the body, or whenever any pathogen is trying to entering into the body, the very initial stage, okay, during that time, So here you can see in the bottom, it is given lies like innate immunity is some hours. 0, 6, 12 is the labeling, right? So unit 0 hour, 6 hours, and 12 hours. Okay, so within 0 to 12 hours, okay, this innate immunity comes into picture. It does its job. Okay, so what is the job? So just it has to kill, eradicate the bacteria or any microorganism which entered into the body. So whenever any pathogen enter, the immediately the innate system immunity system will be it will be enabled by our body. So slowly what will happen, the adaptive immunity system will be enabled. So it may take several days. Okay, that is why even I mentioned this point in my previous lecture. So whenever we have any viral or bacterial infection, so doctors will not prescribe any antibiotic immediately, because they will allow our body to enable the adaptive immunity. Because for adaptive immunity, right, so it takes some time for our body to invoke or enable that system. So it may take several days, so we have to wait for that. So once if it is enabled by default, what may happen, our body may easily handle or tackle. Very rare cases, if our adaptive immune system or the innate immune system is not able to tackle, in that case the doctors may prescribe you to take some antibiotics or antiviral drug molecules. Okay, so in short I can say that there are so many molecules, so many tissues, so many cells which are coordinating with each other, very complex mechanism. Okay, so we have to understand each and everything, okay, how it is able to tackle that, right? So the take home message for this slide is that we have two types of immunity, innate and adaptive immunity. Innate is the first line, very fast rapid response from the body. Adaptive immunity, it takes some time. Okay, so coming to the big picture of the immune system. So as I said that so many things here, I kept one image, right? So all those are different terms, maybe a cell name or tissue name or the mechanism name or some event which is taking place. So it is a very vast thing, right? So many things are going on. So before knowing about each and everything, so for example, before knowing about what is meant by epithelial barrier, what is meant by specifically about the characteristics of dendritic cells, specifically about more details about the B lymphocyte or T lymphocyte or antibodies or effectors, right? So what we are going to understand now is it is always better to know the big picture. What's happening? Okay, so if we say immune system, what actually is happening? What's the big picture of that? That is what I am going to explain to you with the help of this a big picture. Okay. So can someone tell what is happening in this image? I have put some image, very interesting, very relevant to the talk what I'm going to deliver now. I hope the image is visible for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can answer. What is the image? Okay, I'll continue only if I get some answer, right? So I cannot teach in this way. What I need is absolutely kind of
They
response.
are protecting our borders, sir.
Okay, this is a border, right? So they protect their country, right? So our city. So this is something protection is very important, because the other enemies or the other country people, they should not enter. They have some well defined border. They're creating the border, right? So same thing is very comparable to our body. So if we take our body is like a country. How the soldiers are protecting. Okay, so just like that, we have kind of protection. Okay, so in that way we can say that this image is very much relevant to the topic that we are talking. So our body has some kind of protection, against the microorganisms, which can really cause some very serious illness or diseases, right? So I just want to move to the OneNote. So let me share another screen. Okay, so is my screen visible now?
Yes, sir.
So what is on my screen?
Microsoft OneNote, sir.
OneNote.
Okay, fine. So do you find any break in my voice? Because whatever you speak, I find some kind of break. Is my
No,
voice
sir.
No, sir, it's clear, sir.
okay? Yeah, thank you. Thank for the response. So let me go for I just want to, rest of the lecture is going to be handwritten, right? So I'm just going to explain with the help of some images, right? So as I said, the body is like a country. Okay, so it has to protect from the foreign invaders, right? So in our case, the foreign invaders are some kind of microorganisms, right? So let me write what are the microorganisms. Sorry. Okay, so let me write here what are the microorganisms. Um, so the common microorganisms, what we talk about here, which can cause diseases, it can be a bacteria, or it can be some kind of virus, or it can be a fungi, or it can be some other parasites. Any of this, okay. So not all bacteria, not all viruses, not all fungi, not all parasites, they can do harm. Some of the bacteria, some of the viruses, some of the fungi, some of the parasites, they can really cause some serious harmful effect for the host or the human system, or we can say they can cause some kind of infectious disease. So I'm sorry that today I said by mistake, I have to allow everyone. Next class, I won't do that, right? So you can join at any time. Okay. So these are microorganisms which can cause some kind of infectious diseases, right? So coming to the barrier, okay. So coming to the protection which is provided by our body against these microorganisms. So what are the kind of protections which are provided? Say we will take this as a, consider this as a body, right? So this is the body. Okay, so this is the border, and so here I am making some kind of layer. Okay, so maybe this is the say this is the skin. Okay, so this layer is the skin. Okay, so is my display visible? Someone can respond.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, so this is the skin. Okay, so say the bacteria or the fungi or whatever it is, right? So say some microorganism which is present outside the body, they're not so happy, right? So they cannot be so happy outside the body because they really need host. Okay, that's the way how the nature made it, right? So they really need some host. So our body can act as a host for any of this infectious diseases, like infectious agents like bacteria or virus, whatever it is, right? So first, whenever the bacteria has to enter into the body, the biggest protection. Okay, so we can say the first line of protection provided by our body is called as mechanical protection. Okay, it is called as mechanical protection. So coming to the mechanical protection, one of the major protection is provided by the skin. Okay, so because this pathogen, it cannot directly enter into the system. Okay, that is not possible, right? So it has to breach slowly. It has to get access and enter into the body. Then only it can enter into the body, right? So first, how this microorganism can try to enter, it can try to penetrate into the skin, but nature made the skin as a very good mechanical protection layer. It cannot, the microorganism, it cannot easily enter. So if we talk something about skin, you know that skin is made up of different layers. Anybody know what are the layers? How many number of layers there in skin? Hmm? Again, if you don't respond, I won't proceed. It's a very simple concept. Okay. So at least we have 5 layers. Okay. So 5 layers, which gives a very good protection. So that is what we call it as you may heard about this. It is called as keratinocytes. Have you ever studied about this term?
Seven, sir.
Hmm?
Seven.
Yeah. I'm not talking about the total, right? So at least I mentioned at least 5. Okay. So have you heard about this term, keratinocytes? Okay. So as we have many different numbers of layer here, okay, different numbers of layers here, it's going to be very strong protection. Do you think that the bacteria or virus, it can easily breach and enter into the host system by crossing this skin layer? No, it's going to be very difficult. It's like a very strong wall. Okay, so breaking this wall and entering into the cell, entering into the body and getting access to the other cells are going to be very complex, very difficult job for any of this small microorganisms. Am I right? So we can say the first mechanical barrier is the skin because of the presence of multiple layers. So who said 7? Somebody said 7 layers, right? Can you name a few layers? If you respond quickly, it'll be good.
Hypodermis.
Sorry?
Hypodermis.
Any other name? Okay, so here I just write, right? Not much important, uh, but you should know what are the layers.
Premise.
Okay. Okay, so these are some of the layers, right? So like that we have many different layers, not much important for us, right? So the viruses are the bacteria which cannot easily cross this. Okay, so they cannot easily enter into this. This is the first kind of barrier, right? So secondly, let me erase something here. There are certain regions, right? So in which uh, we don't have uh, skin, or the skin is modified. Okay, the surface is slightly modified. Those we can call it as uh, mucous membrane. So these are the membrane which do not have the structure or the architecture like skin. Okay, so this is a modified surface. So let me put this mucous membrane graphically as maybe something like this. Okay, say this is the mucous membrane. So it's not like the skin. Okay, it's having kind of modified surface. So what if that the bacteria or the virus which can try to enter through this um, mucous membrane. So if you take I or GAT, gastrointestinal tract, so they are all made up of mucous membrane. I, gastrointestinal tract. If you take the surfaces of the productive system, okay, all those are made up of mucous membrane. So what if the bacteria or the viruses, they can try to enter through this mucous membrane instead of this normal skin which is having multi-layered architecture. Yeah, it is possible for the bacteria or the viruses to access through this mucous membrane. But naturally, if you think of this mucous layer or mucous membrane of eye or gastrointestinal tract or the productive system, so you can find some kind of moist. Okay, naturally you can find some kind of moisture or moist in the surface of those mucous membrane. So the specialty of this moist is that that moisture, right? So it actually contains many different types of molecules and enzymes. Okay, this mucous membrane, which is having moist, which contains many different types of molecules and enzyme. So if in any case that the virus or the bacteria which try to access to enter through this mucous membrane, then the molecules and the enzymes which are present in the moisture of this mucous membrane, they can directly act on these microorganisms and they can straight away kill that microorganism. Okay, so that's the way how the nature gives a defensing mechanism for the entry of the microorganism through mucous membrane. Is it understandable? We will see what are the various molecules and enzymes later in detail, right? Just I just wanted to give the big picture, right? So how the different layers of protection provided by the immune system of human. So another type of thing is that the viruses or the bacteria, they may try to enter via the lung or the pulmonary surfaces. That is also possible. Lungs or the pulmonary surface, or they can try to enter via any of this. So greatly, the nature which provided something in this lungs or pulmonary surface called as cilia. Okay, so what may happen is that once if the bacteria or in viruses or any microorganism which reaches any of this surface, lungs or any other pulmonary surface, so what happens because of the presence of this cilia, what may happen, it can propel, and so the microorganism or any other particle can be sent out because of this. Okay, so we can say that these are kind of great mechanical protection which are provided by the human immune system. Skin, the moist surface of mucous membrane, and ciliary surface of lungs and pulmonary system. Is it understandable? Is it understandable so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So also along with this, so we have some other proteins also, not inside the cell. I am talking not inside the body, right? So outside the body. So we have some other kind of proteins. These are called as these proteins are called as defensive protein. Very important. So whenever the bacteria or any other pathogen which try to enter into the human system, so the defensive proteins, there are so many defensive proteins which are present. So we'll discuss each and everything in detail in the upcoming lecture classes. So what's the main job of this defensive protein? Just something like the molecules and enzymes which are present in the moisture. Okay, so its job is very simple. It pick up the incoming pathogen, and it creates some hole. If it is a bacteria or any other thing, it creates some hole on the membrane of the microorganism, thereby it break the microorganism. Very important. I again repeat. So the main job of this defensive protein is that whenever the bacteria or any other microorganism which try to enter into the system host, so these protein molecules, they pick those microorganism and they create some hole on the membrane of that organism. So you know what happen if we break the membrane, right? So the integrity will be lost, thereby the bacteria or the virus will be killed. So this process is not happening inside, it is happening at the surface level of our body. Is it understandable?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we can say that these are whatever I have explained so far, they're example for the mechanical barrier which prevents the entry of the microorganism into the body. The microorganism is not yet entered into the body. Even before entering into the body, we have so many barrier. Okay, the bacteria or the virus, it has to handle all this barrier to get into that. So we have also another type of uh, mechanical barrier. Okay, so maybe that's the last one. So what is that barrier? That is the pH. Okay, so whenever we talk about pH, right, so our body is made up of different region of our body is having different pH. So if you take some fluid in the stomach, or if you take some fluid some other part of the body, there won't be same. Definitely there is going to be some kind of difference in the pH, right? So pH and the microorganism, okay, there is a kind of connection or the relation. So this microorganisms will not be happy, they cannot feel happy at acidic pH. Okay, if the pH value is less, we say it as acidic pH. So these are the microorganism, right? So it's a general thing. The microorganisms, they cannot be very happy at the acidic pH. Okay, so what may happen is that, say for example, if they enter into the stomach, right? So the pH will be very high. It is very acidic. So what will happen because of that? The bacteria or the virus, it cannot be stable enough to survive at the given pH. Okay, so pH plays a very important role. Um so another important thing is that one more thing I forgot to mention related to the mechanical barrier. So this, you people might already know about this term called as flora. What does it mean? What's the meaning of flora?
Plants.
So we have some good bacteria, right? I told that not all the bacteria, all the viruses are not harmful. What's the name for the good bacteria or good virus, which really help your host or the human system? Hmm? So I'm looking for some kind of response. Otherwise, again and again I am repeating this. I don't know. So how many students join? I'm able to see only 15 students and no response from most of them. I think they have connected and left. That is what I can assume. So What is the name for the good bacteria which are present in our body?
Probiotics, sir.
So the another name is the bacterial flora. Okay, it is called as bacterial flora. So which means that the good bacteria which are normally present in the stomach or the gut, right? So okay, the flora is the good one, right? Okay, so coming to that, how that is related to our talk, right? So how that is related to the mechanical barrier. Okay, there are so many good bacteria and viruses, okay, which are present in the surface of our body. So this is the surface of our body. This is the inside part of our body. In the surface of our body, there are so many bacteria and other microorganisms which are present. They're really not harmful. Okay, so how this is related to the mechanical barrier for the pathogen? Okay, the bacteria or the virus which can really make some harmful thing for human system. So our body surface will be having many number of receptors, just for example for understanding, right? So since this bacterial flora that occupies the surface of the system, they may occupy the receptors which are very essential for the entry of this pathogen into the body, because that is already occupied by this bacterial flora. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is why there are some cases in which the doctors may prescribe you to take a broad spectrum antibiotics. You know what is the meaning of broad spectrum antibiotics? What is meant by broad spectrum antibiotic?
They target a large number of bacteria.
Absolutely right. Okay, so broad spectrum is not very it is not specific for certain type of bacteria, so which can kill many different types of bacteria which are present. Okay, so let me say this is a different bacteria, 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 and so on, right? So what happened? So if your antibiotic is not very specific, if it is a broad spectrum antibiotic, it can wipe, it can kill almost all the bacterias, which means that it can kill both the pathogen as well as the bacterial flora, the bacteria which are really good for you. So once if you take this broad spectrum antibiotics, almost all the bacteria which are present in your body, whether it is a good bacteria or bad bacteria, everything will be wiped out. Okay, is it good or not? Is it good or not? Taking a broad spectrum antibiotic is good or not? Hmm?
Not good, sir.
Why it is not good? Somebody is saying not good. I do agree, right? So let's make this, right? So I am removing this. So all those bacteria which are killed because of the intake of the broad spectrum antibiotic. So now what happened? So the opportunistic pathogen, if any is present, right? So it is giving space for this opportunistic bacteria to go and adhere to the receptor which can get access. Okay, so that is how this good bacteria or bacterial flora, they actually give a kind of mechanical barrier for the entry of the pathogens inside the body. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so these are the kind of this flora can be, in the surface of throat. In the throat, you can see many number of good bacteria. You take pulmonary surface, you can see many number of bacteria, good bacteria. If you take vagina, you can see many good number of bacteria, right? So once if you take a broad spectrum antibiotic, everything will be wiped out. It is not good. In very rare cases, the doctor may prescribe you to take the broad spectrum antibiotic. So far I think whatever I explained is understandable, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. So okay, so these are what are collectively called as the mechanical barrier, right? So how much time we have? I think we have only 5 more minutes, right? So I don't want to rush up first few classes at least, right? So because the strength is very less, I don't know what's the reason. So actually there should be some more than 35 students. I'm able to see only 15 students. I literally don't know what happened for the another 15 students. Also not so happy about the 15 students who joined, because I'm able to hear only the sound of voice of one or two students. So better, I think I have to ask you to share your video from the next class. That's the only way for me to monitor whether you are listening to me or not. No other go. If this is continued for the next few classes, that's the one and only option. No other way. Okay. So I just wanted to stop here, right? So we'll continue in the next class. Next class, I'll finish this big picture, right? So because I have to cover so many things to give the overall picture of what happened for the what's happening in the immune system of human. So far, what I covered is just the mechanical barrier. Okay, next lecture class, I'll be talking about in case if any of this mechanical barrier is failed to protect the entry of the microorganism, and if the microorganism successfully entered into the body, what happens next, how our body is going to handle that. That what I'm going to explain in the next class.